particularly in respect of the protection of core pay for their members earning below €65,000, and that was an important aspect of the agreement. It is also important to note that there were some sectoral agreements conducted, for example, with the Prison Officers Association, and again there are complex issues involved for those unions and for unions on both sides of the where the members either supported or rejected the agreement. So I think it's important now we would have some time to reflect to see what the response will be from the unions, and indeed then to see what the government response to that will be.
Jillian van Turnhout.
Firstly, Ciarán, I would like to note my disappointment that my matter of adjournment wasn't taken when I do know it was lodged before some of the others that were accepted. I do welcome the Government's acceptance of the Cross-Party Private Members Bill, along with Senator Bacic, to set aside the statute of limitations for survivors of symphysiotomy. And I know from the debate that we had here in this House last May that many senators advocated this position. It is a horror story that I've been closely following for some time as a member of the Victims of Symphysiotomy All-Party Support Group, and I pay tribute first and foremost to the survivors, their families and supporters, and to those who advocated and campaigned tirelessly on their behalf. I do want to also recognise Caoimhín Ó Caoláin TD, who is convener of the All-Party Group, whose determination and commitment to seek justice for the survivors has kept the issue firmly on the Oireachtas agenda. And while I don't condone the length of time it's taken us to get here, I believe that this is how things should be done. It has restored my faith in consensus politics and how we can work together to achieve good. And while the agreement by the Government to support the bill through second stage is welcome, I'd ask the Leader to urge the Government to begin actively engaging with the survivors and their representatives groups to address their immediate health and support needs, and in parallel to put a structure in place that will ensure redress. I'd also like to take this opportunity to raise the plight of the 32 living thalidomide survivors. In an Oireachtas briefing, they shared some of their very specific support needs. Regrettably, they're being shunted between government departments, and I'd ask the Leader to urge the Government to engage with the survivors and their representative groups at the earliest opportunity. Also, I'd like to recognise that on Monday, in response to the publication of the European Commission's report on trafficking to human beings, I called on the Government to immediately transpose the EU Anti-Trafficking Directive into national legislation. We were due to have this done by the 6th of April. The directive has the potential to significantly impact on the lives of trafficked victims and will help prevent others from falling victim to this heinous crime. And so I welcome yesterday's publication of the Criminal Law Human Trafficking Bill to give effect, and I note it says, to certain provisions of the EU Anti-Trafficking Directive. I look forward to comparing the bill against the directive, and I hope I will find all the necessary elements incorporated. Significantly, the bill defines forced labour in accordance with ILO Convention 29, and this is something I've called for in the past, and I welcome its inclusion here. And I would like to ask the Leader to commend the Government for initiating this bill into the Seanad. And finally, I'd like to welcome the appointment of the members designate of the new Irish Human Rights and Equality Commission. I think they are of fine calibre, and we can see very extensive expertise that they'll bring to their role, and hopefully a suitable chair can be found at a soonest opportunity.
Senator Norris.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say first of all that as a member of a trade union, in fact of 3 trade unions who voted against the acceptance of the breach of an agreement by the government unilaterally, I want to celebrate the fact that SIP2 and the other trade unions voted against it massively and overwhelmingly. And that was an exercise in democracy. And I'd like to see a little bit more of it around this joint. Unlike the people who came over here from the Troika and lied to us and said we could not and must not legally or morally in any other way burn the bondholders. And within a short matter of time, they're over in Cyprus, where they're telling them they must burn the bondholders. So there's no consistency. There's no feeling for the ordinary, decent human beings. And thank God for our President, Michael D. Higgins, who told it as it was today in the European Parliament and spelled it out in a most wonderful speech. The people of Ireland are the victims of an international